On 28th August last year, Benita Dankwa went to bed healthy and fit, not knowing what would happen in the ensuing hours would change her life forever. The 7 months pregnant woman woke up at about 5:30 the following morning, only to realize that she had been shot in the chest.
Early that morning, I woke up to urinate. After that, he also did the same thing. But he took a very long time in coming. I wanted to go and see what he was really doing. But I was feeling too sleepy, so I slept off. I woke up only to realize that I had been shot.
John Asa lives in the same house with Benita and her husband, 33-year-old Effort Dankwa. He says at about 3 a.m. that dawn, he heard a gunshot.
When I was sleeping around 3, I heard a gunshot. It was afar. And I didn't say anything. Then I was there again, I heard another one. That one was too loud. And I was asking myself that I should sleep well, because sometimes some people like giving gunshot, and if you didn't take time, as in your room, something it can mess up and come and hit you. So I was just there, and I was okay, fine. It didn't take it didn't take hours, and then I heard my friend call me to come and help her to take his wife to the hospital.
Police investigations have revealed the chamber and hall apartment in Tema Community 11, where Benita lived with her husband, was not broken into, which suggests the shot was fired from the room. Benita slept in that room with her husband. This is the house where Benita Dankwa was shot on the 29th of August 2015. This is their room, and I'm told these windows lead to the living room, and this particular window and then the one behind here actually lead to the bedroom. According to the police report, there was no any form of break-in, and there is a wire mesh and also a very thick curtain in here. So if somebody even shot through this window, probably the person needed to have cut through this wire mesh, lifted the curtains before finding his or her target. But I'm told no form of renovation was made after that incident, and there is no form of breakage or even cutting through this mesh. Tema Region Police Public Relations Officer ASP Julian Obin says their investigations are pointing to one direction.
And there were things that we found in the room. Let me give you an example. If I'm with you alone in a house and I wake up to have some injuries on my body, and I find certain other things that has to do with some blood stains, and there's no other person in the room, and there's nobody who came to the room, and all of that, I think that your answer or your guess is as good as mine.
Benita's husband was arrested, cautioned, and granted bail. He has denied any wrongdoing. He also declined comment when Joy News contacted him. A police report available to Joy News indicates a woman called Ernestina Dede Lagbenuku, who was in an amorous relationship with Benita's husband, was also arrested and cautioned. Benita believes her husband shot her. Benita's father, 68-year-old Seth Ohini Renchi, says Effort Dankwa refused to report the shooting of his wife to the police. Doctors say Benita was already paralyzed by the time she got to the hospital. She was delivered of her baby prematurely through a cesarean section, but her husband refused to accept the child. Benita explains why.
He never made mention of anything until when this baby came in. He started saying, I've been visiting hospitals and all that. So how would he believe that the baby is his?
When you got pregnant, did it ever come up?
It never came up. He never made mention of anything like that.
Benita is now bedridden. She has lost the ability to pass out urine or human waste. Her 54-year-old mother now has the double responsibility of changing the diapers of her 5-month-old grandson and her 29-year-old daughter.
As you sit here today, what do you miss most in life?
I miss walking. I miss working. And I miss being I miss many things because now I can't do anything. I'm just sitting here all day. If I want to sleep, I sleep. I can't do anything. If I could walk, I could do everything. So that is what I miss most.
And do you have hopes of ever getting back to your normal self?
I do. I really do. But sometimes I think it will take a long time. But I have hope.
Very, very sad indeed. Pregnant woman survives shooting. Police suspect her husband, a husband who she dated for 5 years, got married to him for 4 years. A man who police investigators say was having a love relationship with another woman, going to the beach and exchanging love messages with that person. Remember South Africa's Oscar Pistorius, that incident as well? How can people murder someone they love? Because usually when in love, you're more protective about that person. Can love and such kind of hate coexist, or the love part is just fake in some cases? We're asking lots of questions. What is the mental state of these people? And my guest is Seth Asafo, who is a clinical psychologist with the Department of Psychiatry, University of Ghana School of Medicine and Dentistry. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Yeah. Can you love me and harm me?
It depends. It depends if it's actual love or it's just a pretense.
Okay.
Talking about loving and then hating at the same time. Research into murders, or typically murderers who've been acclaimed worldwide, like Ted Redder. He was called BTK, that is bind, torture, and kill. There are a whole lot of them. Now, what do you realize about these people? Clinically, they've been tagged as psychopaths. Now, psychopaths are quite different from sociopaths, although most people think they're similar.
Yeah.
Now, psychopaths typically have no sort of feelings. They are unable to empathize. And they can stay in relationships, and you actually think they love. They might have a family, but everything is about them. And to them, even that relationship is a game. So it's actually very possible to be in such a relationship and not even love the person.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. But can people change also? I mean, can you have like a perfect partner, somebody who does all the loving things, and then suddenly they change?
Well, it's possible. I mean, it depends. People are triggered off for so many reasons. Obviously, there's a reason why people will do certain things.
Yeah.
So, if love changes, then you have to start asking questions. Except, of course, there's a track record. So, like when I spoke about sociopaths and then psychopaths initially, so typically sociopaths, they develop because when they were little, they were abused emotionally or psychologically in some way. So they tend to become loners, and then in that process they develop a certain sense of self. Okay. Now with psychopaths, on the other hand, research has shown that it is usually as a result of a genetic factor. That is, they are born with underdeveloped regions of the brain that are implicated in emotion and impulse control. So those are things that we argue all the time, nature and nurture. Okay. Yes.
Okay. I mean, this incident that Manasseh Azerawini has been following is quite unique. This is somebody who's been married, who is pregnant, and then something like this is happens to her suddenly. I mean, every relationship has got its own problems. Yes, indeed, she also had her own problem even in that relationship. But you would think that, I mean, this is like to the extreme. You can't make any sense out of it. But can you tell if the person that you are with has got these tendencies?
Well, there are certain things you have to, you will see. If you're with someone who is unable to empathize with you,
Okay.
people who are prone to violence, they essentially think of themselves alone. They are all signs that, well, it might not be as rosy as I think it is. You understand? Then on a clinical level, I want to bring in one of the famous murderers who was called Dennis Rader, the BTK I spoke about. Now, he usually tortured his clients and then killed them. And when he was finally arrested, he explained it wasn't him. He had a nickname, Killer Clown. Now, he did shows for children, so he typically liked torturing or killing these children. So he
But that was just a show. That wasn't supposed to be real.
Exactly, but it's a show that he did. But when he was arrested later, he explained it wasn't him, but it was his alter ego, which is implicated in a disorder we know called dissociative identity disorder, formerly called multiple personality disorder. And some classic novels have also depicted some of this. For example, Sidney Sheldon's Mirror in the Image, about a girl who had 4 different personalities. They switch and one commits murders. And when she comes back to herself, and even the lie detector cannot tell that she actually committed the crime because of that switch. So there's a clinical aspect also to it. Yes.
Okay. So now I want the real steps of how can you tell?
There's no... Okay, well, there's no straightforward... but there are certain signs that you should look out for. People who are easily prone to anger, people who use a lot of substance, say alcohol or hard drugs, people who feel a sense of grandeur. They feel superior or special to other people. So they rarely empathize. It's like they are unable to feel empathy. So all these things. So if you find someone who is not too considerate, sometimes we say, excuse me, say "Nitri more din."
Okay.
Okay, now you should look at people like this with a second eye, because there are all factors that can be implicated here.
There's a significant thing that this lady in this piece says, which is the husband didn't want children even when they were dating. So he had said it, and then when they got married, he said it again. Could it have been a sign?
Well, I won't be too quick to judge, but it depends on his reason for not wanting children. And at some point in time, when people have situations that to them are overwhelming, they become frustrated. And frustration invariably leads to some level of aggression. So it's not something I can just put out bluntly and say, oh yes, but there have been links like this. So there is a possibility that there's a certain level of frustration that he feels because he feels it's overwhelming to have a child.
Okay. There's also maybe some kind of difference that we can draw from somebody who is let me put it this way. Relationships are not perfect.
Of course.
Different things happen. Somebody can have like a husband or a boyfriend who's always beating her or something of the sort, or who gets drunk and things like that. We all have the hope that, it will be better, or that's how relationships are sometimes. Can you console yourself with all these nice words even when you're experiencing bad things in a relationship?
Some people will, others won't. It depends on whether you want to be an optimist or a pessimist. But I know one thing for sure. Once attitudes are formed, they're very hard to extinguish. So if you're in an abusive relationship and you keep saying, I know it will get better, or I'm praying it will get better, think again.
Yeah.
Except the person is willing to change. It's almost impossible.
Can you change a person in a relationship?
Of course.
Yeah?
Yes.
I don't know. I've always said that no, you can't. The person can change him or herself.
No, you can't. Human beings learn. We learn by reinforcement. We learn by punishment. So if I withhold certain things from you, for you to elicit a desired behavior, you're learning. And so you can alter people's behavior by making them learn.
Okay.
So yes, you can change people.
But is it always, I mean, should you
But it's
bang
not that
your hopes
simple.
on it and
No,
say
no,
that
no, not at all.
I can change him or her or something of the sort?
No, it's not that simple. Not that simple. You have, you're in a relationship where your boyfriend or girlfriend uses drugs. It's not something that's easy to change because that in itself is very addictive. So if it means seeking external help from a psychologist or a rehabilitation center, and that person is willing, well, then you can actually, say it's actually possible. But if I keep saying, can you stop, and you go like, don't disturb me, I don't want to do, you have to think again.
Wow. Is love, okay, this is tough, but I want you to explain it the psychiatry way.
Okay.
Is love blind?
That is a very big question. Well, I think sometimes it's blind, at other times it's not. It's only blind because you make sacrifices, you don't care who the person is. I mean, there are instances where someone comes from a very high socioeconomic status and goes in for, excuse me to say, a nobody. And people sort of wonder, I mean, why would she do that?
Yeah.
There are equally good girls, beautiful girls in your class whom you could associate with. Then I'll say, okay, in such a scenario, love is blind. But if not, so, no.
I haven't asked any direct questions in relation to this particular case because it's still a police investigative work. But what do you think is wrong here?
Well, I'm very confused myself. And I don't know what to say. Looking at the case, it's complicated, and I don't want to be hasty to making any conclusions.
Okay. But how does a person who has been through this, most importantly, survive it?
Okay, so...
I mean, because she had a beautiful life before this.
Yes. So the issue of trauma comes in, as usual. And the family is a very important point of call here. The church, friends, they need to provide a lot of social support for the person to feel like not everyone is that bad or callous. And then I advise that they seek professional help as well, or she seeks professional help.
And she has a baby. I mean, how do you even overcome this? This is tough, honestly. It's easy to say, when you have all the support and everything, but you are reminded constantly of the fact that you can't walk again. You have a baby, and all the things that you dreamt you would do with your baby, you couldn't do now.
Yes. So usually in instances like this, people look at only the negative aspects. And I can't tell you on air what the positive aspects are, but when you talk to people, you try to find out how well they are coping, and you build upon the positivity that they have to actually encourage them out of the condition. And with trauma, we have to understand that trauma over time becomes residual. So it will take some time, but the symptoms will become less and less.
Can people do bad things to their loved ones and say they didn't know what they were doing?
Okay, so, well, there are several angles to that. And if you look at the insanity plea, when people commit a crime and then their lawyers are pleading guilty but maybe mentally insane, you realize that the insanity plea states that you have to, at the point of the crime, should have not known what you were doing, or didn't even know whether it was right or wrong.
Okay,
so that's how straightforward it is for us to go into an insanity plea. And yes, considering what I was talking about, if you read so many novels, or even the research that's been done into people who've done murders in their life, you realize that majority of them were classified as psychopaths. And like I've explained, psychopaths have no feeling. Your pain is sort of a stimulation to them. That gives them amusement. And the whole torture before you die is a game. So people like that do not really care about good or bad. Their conscience doesn't even register it. It's like, even if you take, well, I'm a Christian, so I'll speak for Christians. If there are times where you are in tune with God, and whenever you go wrong, you feel remorseful. Why am I doing this? Now, you keep at it for a very long time, or the same thing you keep doing over and over again, and it gets to a point you don't even realize what you're doing is a big deal. So it's like you're enjoying what you're doing to the point that your conscience doesn't even prompt you. So yes, it happens.
How different is this from schizophrenia?
Okay, so in schizophrenia, which is considered largely a psychosis, you look out for certain symptoms. Now, mostly you look out for a hallucination, a delusion, or sometimes movement disorders. Okay, and in schizophrenia, people still have, or they know that what they are doing might be wrong. Now, with certain people who have auditory hallucinations, they are commanded by a certain voice to do something. And for people like that, well, based on assessment, they can get onto the insanity plea to say that, well, at the point where they were committing that act, they were hearing a certain voice which sort of prompted or made them uncomfortable so much so that they had to do it. So sociopathy and psychopathy is not a clear psychiatric disorder, although the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders classifies both of them under antisocial personality disorder.
Okay.
Yes.
Antisocial personality disorder.
Yes.
I don't know if a Ghanaian would ever accept this kind of, if we would understand that this kind of thing exists,
It
really.
does.
Yeah?
It does.
Can somebody with a bipolar disorder, I don't know if you say disorder,
yes.
can it lead eventually to the person doing something like this?
Let's see. Well, in bipolar, typically you have alternating moods of high and low.
Okay.
So people get overexcited. The manic or overexcited phase, people tend to do a lot of impulsive things, which is promiscuity. Some spend a lot of money. They party all the time. But to murder, I'm not sure. Maybe they are predisposed to use more drugs. And these drugs may have an effect to actually lead them to, but I can't say conclusively if bipolar can actually lead to murderous intent.
Okay.
Yes.
So this question is not making a judgment as to this case, but can somebody carry out a heinous crime like this and still lie down beside the person they've done this to and close their eyes really and sleep comfortably?
Of course.
Yeah?
Yes. Like I explained.
What kind of condition would you be having then?
Well, antisocial personality disorder from the manual, but more practically a psychopath. Okay. Now, with sociopaths, they are able to empathize given certain circumstances. So they might be able to empathize with Mr. A and not B, or Group A and not Group B. They are a bit, they are more, should I say, liberal. So they can empathize in certain circumstances. But a psychopath, totally, no. And then also, when they keep getting away with what they do, it sort of makes them feel even more superior. So most of the psychopath biographies, you realize it was a game to them. So they performed it, and psychopaths are very smart, and they are educated, they hold high jobs. So they are like, they are big out there.
Yeah. And
whatever they do it tactfully. They will not commit a murder impulsively. No, they'll plan it out, they'll take their mark. They're very charming as well. So they easily gain people's trust. And once you gain their trust, then they'll do what they have to do.
You know what is fascinating about this conversation we're having? This is like something you watch in the movie.
Yes.
I mean, this is so America, this is so European. This is certainly not Ghanaian. How often do we record cases like this? You know, like a sociopath or a psychopath? I mean, do we have people like this?
Well, that's why we have the special ward at Accra Psychiatry Hospital. I wouldn't say they are sociopaths or psychopaths, but we have people who have committed crimes and their insanity was in questing, so they are there. But if you talk about, say, multiple personality disorder, OLD, which is now dissociative identity disorder, yes, we have seen some.
I think you talked about like an angry person, somebody who is not emotional or empathizes. Yes. But can somebody just hate you to that extent? But not just anybody, I mean, not just a colleague or something. Somebody you're in love with, can they hate you to want to kill you?
Okay, now I'm going to talk as me and not in a professional capacity.
Okay, so you are Seth.
I'm
All
Seth.
right.
Now, I want to give a hypothetical situation of being in love with somebody and, you know, giving your everything to that person and just to realize the person took you for a fool.
Okay.
Now, that momentarily disrupts your mental being and that could trigger into violence. That violence could invariably lead to a murder. Now, if you've ever read the story about A Time to Kill by John Grisham.
Okay, I read a little bit of it, didn't finish.
Okay, so this father had a daughter who was raped and dragged on the ground, and then they just sentenced these people to some number of years in jail.
Can you imagine?
You see, he sort of lost it momentarily. He grabbed the gun and shot them. And whilst he was at it, he was shouting, he was enjoying what he was doing, he was laughing. Now, that's what helped him eventually, because they said no normal person would be killing and
be excited at the same time.
It can happen.
I mean, this is okay. I'm not trying to make sense out of this, but I can't imagine somebody sleeping through, and even when the other person is asking for help, he goes out like normal, doesn't tell anybody that my wife has been shot, just call me a cab, and takes the person to the maternity ward instead of an emergency ward. I mean, it doesn't make sense, does it? But I have some messages. DNA from Reverend says some habits could be changed in a relationship, but character cannot be changed.
I agree.
Okay, check the habits before they become characters.
I agree.
Characters and habits. This person says, love is wicked. You didn't quite complete. Okay, so hi, I'm Ibrahim Malik from Wa West District. And you're showing me something on WhatsApp. I'm trying to open it, but I don't know if it's absolutely for public consumption, because this seemed like okay, so this is like, I'm sure I can show this. This is like somebody in bed with another, like you've walked in to see your loved one in bed with somebody else, you know, and then he's saying that love is wicked. I get it. So I'm opening the second one as well. Ibrahim, thank you for this. Charlie.
Oh, no.
Okay. I'm trying to open the second one. When I do, I'm going to share it. So quickly, let me see if I have some more messages on WhatsApp, which I do. This person says, Mama V, I'm loving you on the show and I'm enjoying your discussion. Sometimes when you feel betrayed by your lover, things like this could happen. Boating from Yendi says so. But is there an excuse? I mean, can you betrayal be an excuse for you to do this? Can't you just walk out?
Depends on the person. It depends on the person.
How do we encourage people to either walk out or say this has been wrong, but I can move on?
Wow, that is a very big question, and there's no definite do this or do that. But I know it's actually the person. Some people, because of how they've been brought up or because of the experiences, can actually look at this and say, well, I mean, it's okay. Other people, it's very difficult. I'm trying to imagine a very quiet person who is incapable of talking to women and suddenly lands one girl and has been with this girl for, say, 4 years. No, I mean, like, for a long time. And, you know, he's giving his all. Now, he hasn't had that experience, or he's not been with so many people, so everything is sort of tied to, you might even say, obsessed.
Yeah.
Now, a person like that experiencing such a betrayal may act very differently
It's
and
true.
possibly violently than someone who is, you know.
Amazing. There's also the issue of the UPSA lady whose taxi driver boyfriend also killed her because, you know, he couldn't stand her just walking out of the relationship. Things like these happen, but I tell you what, I mean, it's up to us. It's an individual decision, like you said, but if you can believe in yourself and believe in who you are and what you have, you can just move on. I mean, if Seth says, you know what, there's somebody else, or I don't love you anymore, I should be able to move on even though I'm hurt. I think we should all try and get to that point.
Yes,
yeah.
It's simple to say, but like I explained, when people perceive a certain thing that goes beyond them, they are likely to react. They're likely to get frustrated, and that frustration and anxiety and aggression, that's a link that's been studied by psychology and philosophy for a very long time. So I mean, that reaction is understandable, but not the best.
Can I do a mental status check or something like that? Can I check my mental faculties? And
you want to check for yourself?
For myself, yeah.
Yes, you can.
I can?
Yes.
Absolutely. Where do I do that?
Well, maybe we should just talk off air.
Yeah? Okay,
course.
fine. We all need that check. But thank you so much for your time today. It's always
You're
exciting
welcome.
talking to you. Seda Safo, my guest, is a clinical psychologist with the Department of Psychiatry, University of Ghana, School of Medicine and Dentistry. I pray that you all pick lessons from this conversation. We shouldn't be living like this. People who love us should not end up hurting us. When we see the signs, can we simply gently walk off, irrespective of what you know, the repercussions may be? Let's pick a few from what we've discussed. Stay with us. Sweet Becky is one, courtesy Airtel, and she's got entertainment. Stay with us.